welcome to Bonus Time, Laser Time show. Laser Time, a podcast that ensures you never forget about your favorite entertainment.
Yeah.
And
are we somehow the 6th leading Laser Time bonus podcast?
Yeah.
In some ways,
Cheap Popcast is better.
In some ways, this is episode 63 of Bonus Time, but in another way, it's episode 9/11.
Can we talk about how? Can we talk about how this happened?
Yeah.
Because
sure.
you got a hair up your ass, Dave, to do. We should do a 9/11 episode, and I'm like, I'm kind of with you on this.
We were also like,
but we can only do it once.
Yeah. But I was drunk one night because it was after we had recorded after VGA, I think, and we're like, well, we got Greg coming over. We can fit in an episode, and I'm like, 9/11. But it does. It's a little bit
coming
weird.
Up.
But because we had Ernest slotted in for this week, and that's like it couldn't change.
But that you would also point it out.
It was the day after 9/11.
I was.
But this is before
without
9/11.
internet or power. That it wasn't actually our 250th episode.
Yeah.
But that's who came to the 250th?
Say what?
Because I'm the one. I'm at fault for the numbering of the episodes.
Yeah, I just saw that
But I didn't number specials. I didn't number episode 200. I didn't number Gremlins commentary. I didn't number any other special or rerun that we did. But it still could have been the 250th episode. We have put out Laser Time's feed has over 250 episodes. Period.
Okay.
But whatever episode that is, who's to fucking say, and who cares? It's
250 to us.
Why not? It's 250 to us, and why not do something special with the Ernest episode? And that was hella fun.
Yeah.
I cannot believe. Did Greg call you an Ernest hipster when we described?
I mean,
this?
I've described myself that way before.
Ernest hipster, Jesus
because
Christ.
I liked what he did before the movies more than the movies.
I wanted to talk about the movies. We did almost none of it.
If you want to do a movies episode, that's on you.
I do.
That's on you.
Yes, I do. I want to.
The book that I mentioned, that Keeper of the Clown and Importance of Being Earnest, they both go into the movies a little more, especially the Keeper of the Clown, because John Cherry, the director, talks about
the money more.
Well, yeah, he talks more about the production and dealing with Disney and all that. So if you're curious,
that's all I want to know about.
And yeah, it's in the books. So and that the author who follows me on Twitter, it just says Jim Varney's biography on Twitter. His nephew, and he retweeted the episodes.
Did he really?
So the
whole
Varneyverse knows.
Wow.
Does that scare you at all? That was
it does a little, just because I don't know. I mean, we research shows, but we also play a little fast and loose. We're not fucking NPR or 99% invisible. We're not
we're just excited.
We're excited, and it's the point is, I'll talk more about this in 1 hour than anyone else will all year.
That's true.
So
that's at the. I remember talking to Dave, who was helping me edit the Roger Rabbit article. And it's at the end of this, I don't actually consider myself a journalist, and I don't really care if I have every fact 100% correct. You're free to correct me, and I'll acknowledge that and take it out of the article. But I don't actually have to care. I'm not the New York Times. I'm a fucking fan who's doing his best to write up something he loves to the best of my knowledge. Which I have read a lot about. It just
and I also have to record 4 other things this week. So.
But Dave was like, do the 9/11 episode, and if we would have done it, it would have been after the Ernest episode. It would have been published on 9/12.
Yeah.
And
so
what's the point?
Which I don't even remember that day.
Who wants to never forget after 9/12?
9/12, we were all like, what? What's on TV? No,
that Spider-Man movie's only 7 months
Ernest
away.
is still alive.
Yeah.
I did send you that article, and there was John Cherry was making a Son of Ernest.
Son of Ernest.
As of 2012. Never happened, thank God.
I should have played some clips of failed attempts to reboot Ernest.
Really?
Because there are some in there, and they're not good.
With Jim Varney?
No, where it's just a different actor.
What?
Yeah, trying to be Ernest, or this character, does it have to be Jim Varney? And it turns out, kind of, yeah. It's there's just an inherent thing that he brought to it.
Oh my God, we have to talk about that off mic. I gotta know everything.
You can just YouTube, and it's
don't go to YouTube. Go to lasertimepodcast.com.
But yeah, in between,
do not turn to another.
In between finding out we were going with something different, I did collect a few clips. Not an entire
did the
episode's
research.
worth.
Yeah.
I mean, as much research as I could bear to do, and I was looking for clips of entertainment and stuff like that, based on
9/11. I said 9/11, 9/11.
Man, that fucking Three Doors Down. I'm here without you, babe.
11.
Sucking the dick of 9/11.
9/11.
Freedom costs a buck
the sound of an
Okay. That was Hulu. So
this is the 15th anniversary,
yes,
by the way.
That's why I thought like if we're gonna do an episode, we have to do it this
divisible by 5. I say fuck that anyway. No.
From now on, only divisible by 6.
Because in all honesty, you pitching that one, I was excited because Greg was going to be over and like, let's not tell him until he's on mic that he's part of a 9/11. So you
did a reverse, and you didn't tell me until I got here. I'm like, whoa, this is much more pleasant.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What we ended up doing.
Yeah. And on that episode, which hasn't aired yet, I feel a little bummed about, which I can talk about next week's bonus time.
But I thought that also having Greg on was like, oh, well, maybe he can...
So he was in Japan?
He can contribute... Yeah,
no,
like,
he wasn't.
No, he was still here.
Oh, well, forget it. But, yeah, I don't know why I even put this in my notes, but I wrote, 9/11, the event needs no introduction. It's the most deadly and devastating attack on American soil. Coordinated plane hijackings that led to the destruction of the World Trade Center in New York, part of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and another plane in Pennsylvania that killed almost, and the entirety of the attacks killed almost 3,000 and injured over 6,000.
Should have a comedy button over there for levity.
I don't know why. Like, did you not know about 9/11? I just taught you.
Did you hear about this?
But
full planes.
Yeah. So what I did, I collected a bunch of like the biggest reactions that I remember personally, and some of the. I don't want to say entertainment. Entertainment with the word entertainment in quotes because it's more like pop culture stuff, like movies, shows, stuff like that were influenced by 9/11.
It was very strange in the wake of that. And there is literally no one I think young enough to be listening to us who doesn't sort of remember this period.
Yeah,
where entertainment was like almost literally paused. Like, this movie's not coming out. There's no new episodes of this.
Yeah, I know we have listeners who were born in like '96.
Yeah,
and. That you're still really freaking young.
You are, but I mean, if we have time in the episode, I can talk about a catastrophe that I absolutely remember very vividly from when I was 5.
Like Challenger, I remember.
Yeah, stuff
really
like
young.
that.
But that didn't stop everything.
Well, it did. Like everybody changed their theme songs. Letterman and Stewart in particular went into like this very weird, like therapeutic
for 9/11.
Yeah.
But I have Jon Stewart's reaction. It's like. He wasn't the first person to come back, but it was one of the more notable. Yeah. Sorry, that one doesn't just resonate in my mind the way that Jon Stewart's does. So here's that, and prepare to laugh.
Yeah.
Everyone's checked in already. I know we're late. I'm sure we're getting in right under the wire before the cast of Survivor offers their insight into what to do in these situations. They said to get back to work. And there were no jobs available for a man in the fetal position under his desk crying, which I gladly would have taken.
So that was like, it's amazingly like just an 8-minute monologue, and I'll have a little bit more of it later, but like...
I mostly remember how that episode ended, or maybe some episode of that first week where it was really somber the whole show.
They changed the theme song.
And then at the end, he pulls a full-grown dog from underneath the desk, and he's like, look, it's a dog! And everybody, yay!
But I'd never seen anybody do that for an event happening right now. Like, Trevor Noah just did it after the Pulse Orlando shootings.
Yeah.
Like, he just went in with like this is a monologue that's not entirely funny, and it sucks that we're probably kind of used to this by now. I've seen John Oliver have to do it.
I like it. There's so many that I just forget about. Like last year, Saturday Night Live had like Cicely Strong. Like I can't remember if she like sang something in French or just like did a monologue in French, but it was like for what? What was that again?
Charlie Hebdo.
Oh yeah, Paris.
Oh yeah,
that tragedy.
They're all blurring together.
Yeah, but I mean to kick off all of those. Not especially for Saturday Night Live.
9/11 was bigger.
Yeah, but 9/11. Saturday Night Live taking on 9/11. They too were like a few weeks later because Saturday Night Live doesn't usually start until late September, sometimes early October, depending on if there's baseball or whatever. But this is like another one of those like vivid like 9/11 recovery things, and this is from the intro to the 2001 season of Saturday Night Live.
On behalf of everyone here, I just want to thank you all for being here tonight, and especially you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you very much. Having our city's institutions up and running sends a message that New York City is open for business. Saturday Night Live is one of our great New York City institutions. and that's why it's important for you to do your show tonight.
Can we be funny?
Why start now?
Yeah.
Great, beautiful. All our businesses open for business, unless you're pornography, which I'll shut down unjustifiably.
Unless you're selling a giant Coke.
That does, like, just watching that makes me think of two other things that make me kind of sad.
Well,
one thing that makes me sad. What?
Were you in New York?
Yeah. Until 2006.
Yeah, we recently talked about on 30-2010 because there were two movies. There was United whatever and World Trade Center.
World Trade Center.
So we just talked about both of them, and I think back to back we had 9/11 stories in our 06 segment. So if you're curious where we were,
that and your story from Laser Time of like going through the tapes and like watching America lose its innocence.
Yep. Well, not innocence, but like go crazy.
When I look back at the late '90s, were very similar to the '80s. Like, we're just doing great.
Yeah,
there's no bottom. We have nothing to worry about.
Yeah,
Crash. What the fuck? Rethink everything.
There's a .com boom. There's a .com bust.
Yeah.
There's a little. So wait, did Bush steal the election? Then 9/11. It's just like there's this like 90s are boom, boom, boom. Everyone's making tons of money. There's almost no national debt. Gas is 88 cents a gallon. And then, did he just steal an election?
Yeah.
Huge tragedy, and then it's like, and now the entire course of our country turns us into almost bullies.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't, like, everyone was in the same space because everyone, like, I remember like in September, like September 12th, being like bloodthirsty, like kill everybody. Yeah. Everybody must go. America is right.
Oh, there's a little bit more of this, and it's peak Giuliani, like peak love for Giuliani, which he would very similar get rid of.
From New York, it's Saturday night.
Ellen Cleghorn.
But he hosted before.
Yeah.
So
But that made me sad because just seeing him on the stage made me think of Chris Farley as his son in one of the best, like...
That was so great and so mean.
It was mean, but it was... that you're making fun of like an 11-year-old kid who's just having fun.
Who's bored as fuck while his dad is speaking.
But Chris Farley, like, pawing Kevin Nealon as... Can't let that happen, and we won't let that happen.
Wow, I haven't seen that for fucking ever.
Well, that's why I'm so glad that like, we've got them all on Plex, whoever does that for us. But... yeah, that, and then within a few years, like, Rudy Giuliani would become less revered. And I remember, I think it was the run-up to the 2000 election, where it's like, there are only two words that come out of Rudy Giuliani's mouth, 9 and 11.
I don't fault people who lived in New York during that period, because hearing Stewart say that, like, that's your home.
Yeah.
That's a really weird catastrophe to live through. You're allowed to be fucked up for a little while. Maybe not 15 years later.
Yeah.
But, like, I understand. No one should be held accountable for, like, anything I said, I think, within, like, 3 years of 9/11 if you're from New York. I remember trying to call my friend who lived in New York during that period. It's just like, no phones. Yeah. No phones. Phones will not work. There are too many calls coming to New York. They shut down the phones. Yeah. And meanwhile, he has to walk back to Brooklyn because the subway shut down. So it's like this mass march of people through the city in a wake of dust.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll never see anything like that again.
In a big city like that, like public transportation shutting down, and
it's
like
insane.
it almost probably feels like the end of the world in some ways.
Yes. That's the way my buddy Jake described it. Like, he couldn't think of it any other way. And like, he wasn't thinking of, like, what am I going to do? And like, what the fuck is all this?
Yeah,
like, we're all living moment to moment.
Next? Kind of that weird headspace. But what was next? 2 days later, I think the first, like, major public gathering since 9/11. Take a guess. What do you think it was? 2 days.
Dixie Chicks?
What?
Dixie Chicks?
No. It's something we all love quite fondly here.
Opening, wait. Baseball?
I
did go to a baseball game.
The best sport. WWE SmackDown.
Wow.
And here's a clip of that.
We're going to lay the smackdown on whoever did this.
Tonight, I believe, this is the first public assembly of its size since the tragedy of Tuesday.
Tragedy of Tuesday on pay-per-view.
Make no mistake about what, and make no mistake about the message this public assembly is sending to terrorism tonight.
terrorism, you're fired.
And now, in effigy, we'll murder the Iron Sheik.
For what it's worth, though, when I got coffee today, the guy in the coffee shop was legit wearing a WWF In Your House t-shirt.
I saw that guy! We saw each other in the street today outside the studio.
Was it new looking? Or was
it's definitely old. The Bax
the,
is live on pay-per-view.
Yeah, yep.
When we find him, I want to pay him for that.
Pretty jealous.
He went to both Brainwash and the coffee shop.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That's two coffee shops. That is ultimate hipster, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I was trying to find the correct spot on this. It's another 5-minute speech from Vince McMahon about 9/11, and there's some weird spots where it's they're panning across the wrestlers, and then it'll be slow motion pan of the crowd. It's that's a weird cut, and then it made me think, where was Chris Benoit?
Oh no, they cut him out.
That's what I thought, but then I researched Chris Benoit, which is always a fun thing to do online, and discovered he was out with an injury during 9/11. Okay. Didn't return until late 2000 or early 2002.
His wife only tapped at this time.
That Chris Benoit not around during 9/11, does that not raise some red flags?
Oh my God! I think we just solved it.
Yeah. And another highlight of this episode of SmackDown.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but Chris Benoit can make them tap out.
Yes. But they have a bunch of wrestlers during the episode talking about this tragedy hits home. I have friends and family in New York. Blah blah blah. This and that. Stephanie McMahon compares the attacks of 9/11 to the attacks that the federal government made on Vince McMahon during the steroids trial, which is
kidding?
They're
almost exactly the
not
same.
a good time. And this is an edited show, I believe. You don't have to air and
that was a really
pre-recorded
odd fill.
thoughts, but it's
What's behind the scenes, Brett? The opposite for stretch,
you start.
Do you not know a single person?
You can
in
also
York,
shake
Stephanie?
your fist like this. This means 15 seconds. Hurry the fuck up.
Wow.
But yeah, there are some other ones that aren't quite audio friendly. I personally remember the first Mets game after the first baseball game back in New York after 9/11. It was a week later, and it was the Mets versus I want to say the Dodgers, but I could be wrong. But anyway, the Mets won the game, and they were wearing they had insignias for the fire department and police department.
Dodgers would have to feel like big assholes to beat them.
But also Mike Piazza, who was the Mets hero at the time, hit a home run and won the game. And
wow, free beers for everybody.
And I am working on a feature about Adam Sandler thingy-majiggies. And there are two one I accidentally missed in researching everything. I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. Another one being anger management. And spoiler, I'm looking for product placements in all these films.
I'm sorry, it was the Braves that they beat.
My Braves!
Yeah.
But anger management did not have the same crass product placement as the other films, because the product placement was America and New York. Have you ever seen that movie?
Which one?
Anger Management with Jack Nicholson.
I prefer the show.
They had that. I watched the trailer. I'm like, that's strangely still funny. I'm gonna need you to retard your anger. Okay, it's retarded. I'm retarded.
Well, I mean,
but every establishing shot of the apartment is the U.S. Army. Okay. And remember, the end of the film culminates in Yankee Stadium with Rudy Giuliani in the fucking fire department. Yeah. So it's the one film that refrains from crass advertisement to be. Again, just to show you what the time period was
I don't know. I don't want to get ahead, but Sam Raimi's Spider-Man,
that trailer that they had to edit.
Well, they had to edit the trailer, but then Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was the 2002 opening salvo for this. It's the first movie summer season after 9/11, and the movie had been in post-production for months and months and months, but it has American flags flapping all over the place, sustained shots. And what happens at the end when Green Goblin is trying to throw Mary Jane off the bridge is a bunch of people gather on the Brooklyn Bridge to throw shit at the Green Goblin that says, I got something for your ass.
Yeah.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. It's a very fuck you bad guys, fucking New York over here.
That was a sentiment that maybe lasted for a week. And then one person almost got hit by a taxi. I'm fuck you. We're done.
I'm walking here, 2K1.
But I remember that because people couldn't really do destructive things in New York for a little while.
Sure.
And I think the stupid movie Made in Manhattan, is that Jennifer Lopez? Or
yes.
That's the first movie shot
to
go shoot in New York, and it has its own day because no one really wanted to shoot anything in New York after that. Again, 25th Hour is like one of my favorite Spike Lee movies for some reason, but because it's the only one to like really rip the Band-Aid and like film in New York and acknowledge 9/11.
Wow.
No mainstream movie like it's just Norton and Barry Pepper overlooking Ground Zeroes and like what the fuck?
Man, I forgot about Barry Pepper.
I don't have. I didn't collect any clips of that. I didn't think to, but I did collect clips from other movies that were influenced by 9/11 and reflect it. And since you brought up Sandler, here's another Adam Sandler movie about 9/11.
Fucking sweet.
He lost his whole family in a plane crash. He's lost now.
Charlie Fineman for Dr. Johnson.
You don't have an appointment, sir?
Oh, we're friends. We were college roommates.
And?
I used to sleep in the nude.
Rain Over Me.
See, this is not a Happy Madison production. It is a Mike Binder film, written and directed. One of the few movies Adam Sandler stars in from other writer-directors like Punch Drunk Love. This is Mike Binder. If you ever saw Mind of the Married Man or The Sex Monster, I like Mike Binder. Or Blank Man. He wrote, directed Blank Man.
This movie did have a great Shadow of the Colossus cameo.
It does. It has.
Wow.
It does, but I don't think it was for a measure of. But it's really specific about Shadow of the Colossus because I was trying to get. They're playing Twisted Metal 1 in Big Daddy, but like they add in new sounds that aren't from the game, and I think even a new HUD.
Wow.
Yeah.
That speech he gives though in Rain Over Me, which is just that mush mouth. Oh, my family.
Because like Adam Sandler's playing not a former
like
firefighter
or something,
or survivor of like the 9/11 attacks, who basically goes into a more childlike state afterwards and just retreats into that. And so it's not like an Adam. It is not the same flavor of an Adam Sandler movie. No. It's. I guess you would call it a comedy.
Yeah. Look.
I literally have it on Blu-ray somewhere.
Wikipedia calls it a drama film.
A drama film.
He isn't really that funny in it. Like he's almost. Is Don Cheadle like the funny? Who's supposed to be funny? Nobody.
Nobody.
Really
But it's one of those meditations on 9/11, and again, I hope we don't have a national catastrophe where we need to have one of those again.
Yeah, but the fact that like Adam Sandler had to do a serious role that reflects the gravity of 9/11. But I'll move into like the more direct stuff. You mentioned it before, and we've talked about it on 30-20-10. There's the twin movies of. That's a bad term of 9/11.
United 93.
Yes, and World Trade Center.
Both 2006.
How they fall down? How they fall down?
Not this. Jesus. Not for something this size. There's no plan. Okay, listen up. You got to evacuate the tower. Who's coming? Step forward.
I got it, Sarge.
I'll go. Sarge.
Yeah, the World Trade Center. It's weird seeing like Nick Cage in a serious role like this. Like, because how many years later would it be? No, even in 2006 he was doing like Wicker Man.
And
He's in Wicker Man about a month after this.
Wow. And I remember this actually caught a bit of flack because like,
and he'll be in Ghost Rider 6 months after that.
I'm still afraid to watch it again. As a testament to the trauma, I hated this movie being made at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see it then. I don't want to see it now. And this is Oliver Stone. Yeah. So has anyone seen this?
I have.
Does he not have anything to say on the government's responsibility to 9/11, a conspiracy, or
it's mostly about Nick Cage and Michael Pena?
I did
the Ant-Man guy with all the stories.
I watched in preparation, sort of, because the Grimm was on. He just happened to mention the movie Fury, and David Ayer wrote and directed Suicide Squad, and he also wrote and directed Fury. It has Michael Pena and John, the Punisher, the Punisher guy in the new Netflix series. They're both in this movie and Fury, playing like the same gristled blue collar people. Michael Pena, yes, love Michael Pena,
but. Yeah, like there was a bit of flack that like the movie ends with like Michael Pena and Nick Cage being saved because they were trapped underneath the rubble. They were like one of the few people that were like actually saved after 9/11. And the group that saves them, they're all white dudes. When in reality, one of them was black, and they're just like, nah,
can't find anybody. There's no black guy out there who can play a 9/11 responder.
Yeah.
But that's still just like it's only been 5 years, and if it released in 06, that means you're filming in probably 05, which is it's just like did you need like unless you have a specific like this message is so burned in me. I need to communicate it, and I have a take I need to deliver. It's just like, let's just make a 9/11 movie.
You're taking advantage of everybody's like trauma,
which I wouldn't put on Oliver. I don't know a lot about Oliver Stone, but he usually has like such a distinct style that I would feel like if he was going to make any movie, I can't imagine he'd make a 9/11 movie with no teeth.
Yeah.
Well,
it kind of feels
whether I agree with it or not.
Symbolic of that, like George Carlin put out his like worst special, and George Carlin being the most subversive person I can think of who was mainstream at the time, like fuck your government, they own you, fuck them. And then like, so this special, he comes out like, and I want to say something about 9/11. I was born in New York County, New York Hospital, in New York City, New York State, and he takes off his shirt to reveal I love New York, and that is the most anti-George Carlin thing I can think of. That's what the mood was like. So what I'm guessing is that Oliver Stone was like wrapped up in this fucking tragedy too, and maybe did make a toothless movie. We can't really.
I'm never going to go back and watch it again. And that's just because it's like I don't have the time to. Yeah. But to me, in retrospect, it feels like Gary Marshall made a 9/11 Day movie where it's like
9/11 Day.
Yeah, well, it's
Julia
like
Roberts
the most
falls in love.
I mean, I just think of
famous things.
I just think about like Out of Sight and fucking Platoon and like all of his other movies where you're like,
he didn't make Out of Sight, but we'll continue.
I thought he was Out of
Steven
Sight.
Soderbergh. It's all right.
Natural Born Killers.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
What's
JFK?
The one? No, I had to do a report on a film class about Oliver Stone.
U-Turn.
U-Turn. That's what it was. Sorry.
Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
Is that your time?
Yeah,
all right.
U-Turn.
But the more gritty, I guess, of the directly related to 9/11 movies that were widely released is United 93, and here's a snippet of that.
2 planes just hit the World Trade Center.
Nobody's going to help us. We have to put something right now.
Colonel, I need rules of engagement. Do we shoot this flight down?
We have to do it now, because we know what happens if we just sit here and do nothing.
That's the way people on the plane were saying we know what happens?
Yeah, because this was after the Pentagon and the Twin Tower attacks where they were calling home because their flight was hijacked. They were like, I might die. I'm calling home to say I love you. And then they hear there's been other plane crashes today. Well, these guys are obviously not taking us somewhere. They're going to do the same thing. I forgot where that one was going to. I think it was somewhere else. I think somewhere else. White House?
The White House, yeah.
But it ended up like everyone on the plane banded together, and
I'm
they
gonna
rushed the
cool on
cockpit
this
and
conspiracy theory. But I was just watching the news at the time, and I saw part of this movie, and I remember the news. Like we know this plane is in the air, and we know where it's going, and we know it's been hijacked, and we're following it with.
Yeah, they
F-15.
Yes, and this is for like hours. Yeah. They're following this plane, and like we all need to ask questions of the nation whether we film this thing being shot down, because that's likely what's going to happen. Yeah. And I thought, and I'm not sure about this. I thought that is what happened due to the news coverage I was watching. So I saw this movie come out, and like, well, this is horseshit anti-Muslim propaganda that shows people rising up against their brown, the brown foe, because that's not what happened. The government shot it down. I thought that was, and I don't know if that's true, and I haven't gone back to check. So I'll shut up about that conspiracy theory forever, starting right now.
I mean, I'd heard this. It's been long enough now that my brain has just kind of started to blur what I remember as what happened, or if it's still in contention about precisely what happened. Do we concretely know 100% that they banded together, or is there like, I don't know, man. There's
there are phone calls from the plane apparently.
So the weird thing about this movie is that it's like it's nonfiction. It's telling the story of United 93.
It did very conveniently fall down in a very low populated area. So. Do you give the passengers the benefit of the doubt of knowing where that? Again, I'll shut up about this conspiracy theory right now.
It was where they were at the time too. But anywho, like it's the characters in the movie are actual people on the flight. Yeah. And you can't really tell like who actually did what and stuff like that.
They're all unknown actors.
So
and it's Paul Greengrass and like pioneering the Bourne shaky cam style, so you can't see shit.
Yeah. So there's one character. There was one person on that flight, Christian Adams, who has a character in the movie who is the I don't think we should do this kind of person. It's like, how do you know? You can't just like. it's weird because you're kind of sullying a person's memory by saying this was the person who didn't want to storm the cockpit.
Yeah, and I did some research. They said they talked to the victim families to make this movie. I'm like, why didn't you just not do this?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just leave this alone?
I don't know. I didn't hate it when I saw it way back when. I didn't really.
I'll never see it.
Yeah, I didn't really get the whole we must get them kind of vibe. I forgot that there was something after the credits or something after the film. That's
yes,
just a big get her done. So
and also that
Larry the Cable Guy with 2 thumbs up and a right to bear arms.
Even now, the cast is so it's filled with unknowns because they don't want you to be like, what's Matt Damon doing on the flight?
Yeah.
Like, the most famous person is a guy who was on 30 Rock for, 2 years. He was
Grizz?
Not Grizz.
I don't know.
Cheyenne Jackson.
I was just trying to
He
name
was the Broadway guy who came to 30 Rock and every time they had a musical number.
Don't remember.
He didn't have, the best storylines, but, that's 1993, and there's a few more sort of tangentially related. This character has been affected by 9/11 movies that I've collected clips for. Here's, I think, the most recent one.
What do you miss about him?
I miss his voice. I miss his voice telling me he loves me.
Me too. After he died, I found this key in my dad's closet. How can I find the lock that it fits? What's it got to do with my dad?
I told you I didn't know anything about your father.
Finding what this key fits
would be a miracle.
I fucking love that song.
Yeah, I don't love this movie.
What is
it's,
it?
Extremely loud and incredibly close.
It's very. I call me a pussy. I just do not want to relive any of the vibes of this situation.
Well, it's because his dad died years ago in 9/11, and now he's on a 9/11 scavenger hunt because his dad left him a key and he doesn't know what it unlocks. And
I've got the jet fuel.
The key unlocks the truth to 9/11.
It's a giant Kingdom Hearts style keyhole in the middle of the Empire State Building.
Yes.
Yeah.
The opening is U2 where the streets have no name montage from Loose Change. 9/11 documentary.
One of the things about it is God, it does not take much for a child actor to grate on my nerves, and this kid really grated on my nerves.
All right.
And especially I'm collecting this clip, and I've watched The Jungle Book, which I think the kid in that he was great. Stranger Things, those kids are great.
My double shot of Pete's Dragon and Hunt for the Wilder People has a great.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
Which one?
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Isn't it great?
Yeah,
that's so good.
And all these kids are so real, and this is the most I'm a child actor on Broadway, and now I'm in the movie.
Watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and if there was a whole movie starring Mike TV, I'd be so can it, lady? I would be so pissed. That kid is so actory.
Yeah. I barely remember anything about this movie though. Extremely loud.
I would never. There's only one of them I think I did watch because it's so stupid. It's funny.
Would it be this movie that also shares a name with a Capcom game?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Remember Me.
That would be the one.
Great choice.
Here's a clip.
Someone's been trying to tell me something. Make it yours forever. And I'm working on the forever part.
That is
forever
until
9/11.
That is the Capcom game Darkstalkers.
So
fuck this movie so hard. I have seen this.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, but I did watch the ending, which is just everything worked out all right for me.
You can't do because the funniest thing you could do to somebody is show them this film because the movie doesn't want you to know that the end of the movie is Planet of the Apes style 9/11. It's Planet of the Apes is the only thing because nobody. Planet of the Apes, the Statue of Liberty is on the cover of the box that you buy the film in. It spoils the whole thing. Whereas nobody knows about this movie other than its 9/11 tights. But for over 2 hours, it does not tell you what time period it is in.
Really?
Yes, it is about Robert Pattinson falling in love with Claire from Lost and how they just might make it work if he can only get over this baggage with his dad. And
moment I keep hearing the Shrek soundtrack in the background, I assume it's 2001.
The only thing you have is they go and see a new movie in the movie theater, and it's American Pie 2. And I'm like,
wow, that's August.
You're unfortunate that I remember this is definitely from American Pie 2. That is Jim's hand super glued to a porno VHS tape. I know it very well. And they go see that in the theaters, and everybody's cracking up. I'm like, why is this set? Oh my God, are they really going to do this? And yes, the last 10 minutes of that movie you really have to earn it to see how hysterical it is because his dad is like teaching at the top of a World Trade
Center. Weird comedy into serious 9/11 movie tie-in that I remember. Watching the trailer for World Trade Center, you see a billboard for Zoolander, which is like makes sense time-wise, but it's a bit too striking to see.
I still remember being on the email chains naming Remember Me, and I'm just like, and I replied like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I just missed that. I would have fucking.
No, well, I mean, I don't know if you were on it or not because it was.
I worked with it, but it was already named by the time I was there.
Yeah, that's true.
It was announced the week I got there.
But that's right. So I was in Gamescom. It was announced at Gamescom 2012.
But I was like, "Are you serious? There's one Google result we're gonna have to overcome, and it's a Robert Pattinson movie.
Yeah, it's a movie about 9/11,
and we don't want to be associated
notorious
with that.
and silly. And Robert Pattinson is also in 2012 is blowing up through Twilight. So
I said, "Nil him like a villain." That should have been the name of the game.
Yeah. Well, it had other names that before it was. There's a very clear game that Sony was working on that was announced, and here it is, and here's the art, and here's the name of the game, and they're like, well, let's change the name.
and it's like premise, and
it's like,
yeah,
you're not going to win that fight, and you still won't, because if you Google Remember Me, you won't find the game.
I did watch the ending of it.
It's a perfectly fine game.
I thought there would be maybe someone will say 9/11 because that's like I'm looking for audio that's like more direct than what was in the trailer. It's just him repeating that.
Well, at the time, no one had named it at that point, and the last 10 minutes are the attacks.
Yeah, but it's so direct. Like it's him standing in front of the window when the plane's coming. It's like, no, I don't think you would be doing that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you would, but it's just too. That's too much.
It's everything about it is too much.
Here they come.
It's adding a grandiose element that you reserve for like the Titanic going down when you need 100 years between it.
Not when I'm wondering if Robert Pattinson and Claire from Lost have what it takes to make it work for 2 hours, and then ending like this. It is literally the definition of insane. Who greenlit this? And because there's been so much time, the last 10 minutes lingers so much on everything traumatic about the entire situation.
It's a lot of people like running out of a building, like, oh no. No, he was there.
Implying he's breathing in the dust of his father. Like, it's just like, Jesus Christ, movie. Cut. And it never cuts.
That's all the clips that I have for 9/11. I mean, we could probably... I don't know if you guys have additional 9/11 stories.
I don't. I do have like, this week I experienced a catastrophe, but, like, if you want to elaborate on 9/11.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, no, I was just thinking, like... I mean, I lived in New York at the time, and... we talked about on bonus time, or not bonus time, 30/20/10 about like I was driving my brother to work and then like was listening to the whole thing on Howard Stern and then like turned right back and picked him up. I'm like, you don't have to work today. Let's go home.
Yeah.
But just like the aftermath of things that day, like I remember I worked at GameStop at the time, and I'm just like, I got to be with people. I'm going to like just hang out with my coworkers, and we did have that kind of like we got to get them vibe that whole day, and probably for a little while longer, but. One of the weirdest, like, I don't think this is a thing I've never said out loud, but like I remember getting like after I'd gotten home from GameStop, just walking around the house and like looked out the window and I saw like my across the street and like one door over neighbor getting home from work, and like his wife runs out, and it's like such a Hollywood thing where like they just embrace for like like a good like 2 minutes.
Wow.
And now here I am like staring out at them like a creep.
This is
like,
your Stand By Me Dear moment?
Kind of. I was just like, this is so nice. And it's a shame that I have to masturbate to this later.
But I'm gonna salute the flag.
Yeah. But it was
with my left hand.
It was a really sweet thing to see. And
then also remember right after 9/11 is when all the anthrax shit started in the mail, and it was just like, what the fuck?
The whole
the shoe guy.
The whole country went crazy.
I remember
which was the point, by the way.
That was the point. Every time we all did what we did, it was like, this was the point.
Every single impulse, like knee-jerk reaction you had was the entire point of those attacks. So let's attack everybody in the Muslim world.
But I mean, even like 5 years later,
allowed their helter-skelter plan to like come into fruition.
But like we talked about in 30/20/10, like 5 years later is when they started doing the liquids ban.
Yeah,
because someone tried to do that, and it's like we're still like living in that fear.
Remember 2 years ago, I reported like I flew back to Florida from San Francisco, and like, we're not doing the fucking liquid shoe thing anymore. That's not happening. I'm like, thank Christ. This has done nothing for no one. You prevented nothing. And they reinstituted it. It's still happening.
Yeah,
yes.
I've had it every time I've flown.
Yes, it was that one moment when I flew home for Christmas where it's like, fuck that shit. This is
just
holding up everything.
It was like a Christmas spirit thing. Like, you don't have to do it. Nobody's going to attack on Christmas.
I don't think I mentioned it on 30/20/10, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned it on Talk Radar elsewhere, another laser time, but the day when 9/11 happened, I was working 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. at Toys R Us, so I obviously woke up late, and then I was like, why is everything on the news the same? Why is the Weather Channel the same as Nickelodeon? And then, oh my god! And then finding it all out like way after the fact. 'Cause I didn't wake up till like noon, and it was way over at that point. And but I still had to go to work 6 o'clock. So I could roll up at 6 o'clock, and of course it's kind of a ghost town at Toys R Us, but there's still people shopping. And I get to a point where
it's Aerosmith.
Yeah, where all day there was this thought of like Bush is going to go to Ground Zero and he's going to talk and he's going to say something, and it was scheduled for I forget what time. I think it was 7 or 8 Central. I don't remember precisely what time, but we actually went and bought a TV and rabbit ears at like across the street to
bring to Toys R Us
to have next to our you get the tickets at Toys R Us to buy like swing sets and playground
I've never
shit.
heard this story.
And you have to go over and pick them up. And I was working like games. We still to this day that Toys R Us still has games with tickets. Like it's not the separate area. It's like you still got to take a ticket up to the counter and get your game like it's been since the 80s. Still the same. So I walk over there. Like that's the thing and I always love doing that shit. I love getting a ticket, seeing a printout, go find this in the back, bring it up. It's such a simple physical labor thing. I'm like, great, this is awesome. So I do it, but I'm like, surely nobody is gonna. And I haven't picked up shit for like an hour because who's shopping and buying toys right now? Like, be at home. Be like the one day of all your life that you're ever gonna have to not be here. This should probably be the night.
My only story is that it's the only time I've ever in my life felt like I have to talk to my parents.
Yeah.
Though there's, I could see like when I was at GameStop that day, like people need some sort of release. Like I need to be, I can't like because
our whole house was like crowded with people because like we're living around a bunch of hipsters. I don't watch TV. I'm like except for today, all day long.
But but like it got to a point where it's like, I can't do this. I can't watch another hour of news because it's going to keep depressing me. And like, I still have a save file on my PS2 memory card for Resident Evil Code Veronica. Because I was like, I got to a point that day where I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I got to stop watching this. I'm going to play this.
And it's still dated 9/11/01.
Yeah, it is.
But so Bush comes on TV, and everyone crowds around the TV, and it's that speech that he gives at Ground Zero, and as soon as he opens his mouth, my fucking beeper goes off, and it's like Graco stroller, section 4J, and there's some woman just walks over. I'm ready to pick this up, and I'm like, right now?
I'm ready to see how the country moves forward.
Do you notice the crowd of people? And she looks like, will you hurry up? It just has this look of like, why are you standing around? And I'm like, do you know what is happening and that the whole country doesn't... We don't know anything. This is before we even know who did it. And it is September 11th, 6 p.m., right? Yeah. And she's just like, I'm ready for my stroller. And I yell all the way back to the storeroom where you can hear me as the door shuts behind me, and I'm just like yelling out loud, and then come out with her fucking stroller and be like, here, fucking you take it. Like, I'm not carrying this out to your car. Like, if you're in such a hurry that you can't wait 7 minutes while the president addresses the biggest attack we've ever endured.
Avoided being fired just for that. Like,
oh yeah, nobody said shit, and I was like, I was practically chewing this lady out. And I'm like, why the fuck are you doing this? You can't wait plus or minus 10 minutes.
Look, little Jaden still needs his walkies.
Fuck little Jaden.
I remember how badly I wanted to hear just Bill Clinton talk.
Yeah.
Not because, again, trying to remain apolitical, even here on bonus time, just like, I don't know this Bush guy, and I don't really trust him, and I want to hear what Bill Clinton has to say, and because he's the one who told me about every other tragedy and addressed everything else, and it took him like a week, and I was like, thank God Bill Clinton's talking, Jesus.
And that TV story reminded me of like, and this is kind of dumb, but like it just the gravity of it like sunk in. It was months later, but the Real World Chicago, like they hadn't shown a TV like because they like. The Real World, the first 2 seasons, it was like, oh, we have a TV, like we're normal. Then after, I think they realized like in some cases, like all they do is sit around and watch TV. We've got to get rid of TVs. Like so, after the second season, it's like, no, just party
fucking
and
John.
do other shit. Yeah, and in the first season, Norm getting angry because someone didn't tape Star Trek for him. But they wheeled the TV.
My heart goes out.
They wheeled the TV into the Real World Chicago house so they could watch 9/11 as it happened.
Oh my God!
And then like the end of the episode, they go to like a vigil and all that. But it's just like, wow, that's how big this event was. They had to show them on TV on the Real World.
Yeah, my only other thing like that, and I've mentioned that elsewhere because I don't have a lot of stories anymore, especially not from 9/11, was I was a big Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan. The voice of Tom Servo, Kevin Murphy, wrote a book called A Year at the Movies, where he watched one movie a day, the rule being no VHS, no TV. He would even bring like a little screen with him everywhere, and he would travel all over the world to see what movie theaters were like everywhere, and then he finds out that 9/11 happened, and he still needs to watch a movie. And so, like, not only does no one want to, like, you're American. I think he's like in Africa or something. Like, don't you want to watch TV? He's like, yes, no. Like, just there's like a week of his essays of like trying to get through all this by trying to watch movies, and just like it fucked up the flow of his whole book. Yeah, trying to. He also spends like a week trying to live off movie theater food, and I thought that was pretty.
Oh,
yes.
God!
Like, I'm just going to drink a cup of this butter thing and see what it is. And he's like, "That is not butter. You know what butter tastes like. That's not it."
So yeah, before we get into last week's bonus time question of the week,
wait, do you want to talk about other catastrophes or save it for another time?
Oh, I mean, well, when else are we gonna have to talk about catastrophes? So like, you had something happen recently that was like,
well, Florida did for the most part.
Oh shit, yeah.
Hurricane Hermione. I heard it pronounced two ways on the goddamn news, but that's what's weird. The news out here isn't talking about it, and if I couldn't accurately express, like when I was talking to you guys on Friday. I am exhausted. I've been up all night. I'm trying to watch the Weather Channel, which guess what? That's impossible. You can't watch the Weather Channel. You can't watch local channel. Our local station can't broadcast its local news over the internet. But what he did instead, props to the WCTV Channel 9 weather guy in Tallahassee, Florida. He Facebook lived himself up like from a different angle and no mic up against a green screen, because he knew like I can't put this footage online because CBS won't fucking allow it. Weird. So I'm going to, every time he went on the news, every half hour, and somebody with an iPhone did Facebook Live at the side, so you could hear what his updates were. Good for him. Thank you, because like it was I can't really do this after a 9/11 show, but I'm from Florida. I've been here for 10 years. This marks the first hurricane in 11 years to hit Florida. So the entire time I've been gone, not one hurricane has affected Florida. And in the meantime, you've seen it like affect New Orleans and New York. Like that never happened for my whole life. Hurricanes went straight to Florida. I didn't really get direct hits, but residual stuff that would shut down things for days.
The last one that hit Florida that I remember is Dennis in 05, which hit Pensacola in the Panhandle.
Yes, and every year, like I remember I was going to college and it always marked like, sweet, college is opening and there's a hurricane coming. We'll go once, introduce ourselves to our teacher, and we'll go back in 2 weeks. And this is the first one. The first one that happened in 10 years in Florida. But what I also want you to imagine is a hurricane hitting in your hometown. So what does your Facebook look like? I have like hundreds of friends in Tallahassee. So my Facebook feed that night, I couldn't get the Weather Channel. I couldn't get the news. All I could get was like updated reports. And like, so also for the first time, people can tell me live that the power's out because their phones.
Yeah.
And so like people
even like 2005, you wouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly. Like even 5 years ago, I don't think this would have happened, because people are streaming the hurricane live over their phones. I'm watching my friend's power goes out. I'm watching trees come down. I'm watching roofs collapse into nurseries. I've been watching that the whole night. And of course, I read a stupid scare piece that I think is bullshit, and it was about Florida oak trees and how they're 10 years out of practice for hurricanes, and they're all coming down because they're 10 years bigger and 10 years out of practice. So my family's house is like being enveloped by trees. My parents have gotten rid of their grass and lawn.
Like trees, 10 years for trees.
It's not that big.
Not that big.
Not that big. But they're talking about like 10 years. They haven't swayed and moved, and like, of course, if you see pictures, it looks like.
I think trees are pretty tough.
It looks like if trees could fuck and had an orgy. That's what everything looks like. There are trees down everywhere, and two of my friends, like, their nurseries, their children's rooms caved in. They're really scary images to see.
Man.
But
hurricane really had a thing for kids.
It's also my sister was out of she went to Dragon Con in Atlanta, so it's just my parents who can't properly use a cell phone. And I'm like, what I remembered about hurricanes, because I don't want to get too off topic. I grew up in hurricanes. We were saying when I was 5, Hurricane Kate was the first direct hit on Tallahassee that I can remember. We had no power for 2 weeks. We were. I said the trees that were tipped over created the best Bilbo Baggins-esque forts you can ever see. Like multi-story underground forts kids could play in, a giant root to get tripped out. I'm like, that's my room. I live here on the 3rd floor. It was great. No school. We all bathed in the same bathtub for like 2 weeks. No food and like. But this is different. And what I also remember is like even when the power goes out, landlines don't require like much if any power. They stay on all the time. And then remembered, because I can't hear from my parents because they're going to go to bed early. The hurricane hits at like 1 a.m. They're covered in oak trees. I'm terrified. Oh, fuck. They are the idiots who got swindled by that Comcast triple play. Let us have your landline internet phone. They have no phone. They don't know how to use their fucking cell phones. They don't have battery chargers like we have, like extra battery chargers. So I don't hear from them for a long time, and they did update me. Like, the government has set up cell phone charging stations because those towers have stayed up a little longer. To, like, I think right now, as we speak, on a Monday, the hurricane hit on a Thursday morning. My friends are just receiving power. This has apparently been handled immaculately. This is the best you can hope for. 3 days, power has been restored. Nobody has any internet. My parents are calling me to look like we heard, like it's the fucking 40s. Like, we heard there's another hurricane coming, and we cannot do anything. We cannot see. We cannot look. We cannot find that there's any hurricanes. Can you look for us? I'm like, Google hurricane. Shit, what do I do? How do I find another hurricane? And of course I don't see anything. It's just a rumor pervading like wartime.
Jesus Christ.
It was, but I'm making it sound more dramatic than it is. Everybody got I don't think anybody really lost their life. We finally, like, Florida, I wasn't scared of a hurricane hitting Florida because it happens so often. What happens when we get 3 inches of rain in San Francisco? People lose their mind. Nothing's built to drain. Florida's built to drain immediately. It's just the tree debris you have to pick up and the power. And the power's all back on. Everybody's okay. There's a couple of, I think I have one friend who might have just lost their house, but has insurance, all that stuff. Good stuff. My other friend went to a hotel, streaming stuff from a hotel. Again, like, I don't know if you guys have an equivalent of that. Maybe well, not a tornado, because you never know when it's coming.
Well, we have huge storms, and we're in that tornado alley, so like we would get storms that bring you right up to the cusp of where you're getting funnel clouds and tornadoes touching the ground, or I've seen tornadoes twisting over my house and then not touching the ground, so it's like, or you get microbursts that don't have a formation that will just like annihilate whatever was there. Where like the pressure gets so great that like it flips trailers, or like then we're scrambling to get in a crawl space under the house.
I was told that's why like they build all houses next to the beach on the Gulf on stilts now. The low pressure system, like a house-sized low-pressure system to like 10 feet can just flip shit over. If you lift your house up during a hurricane, it won't.
Well, yeah, like in Pensacola, like on Gulf Breeze on the island, it's really thin, so all the houses are on stilts or whatever, so that when it floods, and it will, you can at least get like a wave could maybe go by and not take your house with it. But
that was the funniest.
I don't want to roll those dice.
Somebody in St. Marks, Florida, where I spent a lot of time growing up, just going through a drive-through on inner tubes. Three bros.
Yeah, the last big one I think was 09, where there was we went to see the 09 Star Trek, and I got out and I had like 19 missed calls, and everyone, like my family and friends, are just like, yeah, we got fucked big time. Like, remember that house that they were building? It's gone. Like, there's just a pile of nails where it used to be, and now there's still nothing there.
I don't mean to say it's unprecedented. Just a hurricane's one of those things you know for like days that it's coming, and so like my Facebook feed just told a story of like sandbags and evacuations, and then like storm surges and power outages, and then it hits, and then I'm watching I have not watched a hurricane live anywhere but the news ever, and like I couldn't watch the news, I couldn't watch the Weather Channel without cable, and it was fucking infuriating.
It's a fun time.
I finally log on, like, you can watch it with your cable subscription. Sweet. I'm going to use my parents' stolen cable password to watch. Oh, Comcast, no, can't watch. Because they're Comcast, you can't watch Weather Channel online. Like, is the Weather Channel really not a public resource at this point?
Yeah,
like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be in the 90s, it was like, well, when I was watching with Tremble Starks doing all the music, love that Weather Channel music. So that it was way more weathery, and then around 97, 98, Weather Channel, and then up till now, it became more like, here's shows. And you still get local on the 8s, but you'll get like, it's Storm Hunters and Hunters of Storms and Beach People.
They have videos they update, but like very slowly on the weatherchannel.com, where like they have sent people down there, but it's super out of date. And I couldn't, so I was part of this like East Coast or West Coast guild of people trying to get information about what's happening back on the West Coast at about midnight our time, because the hurricane is there, and if you're not posting it on Facebook, we don't know what's going on. And obviously my parents are incommunicado, but whatever, everything's fine. I have literally heard everything is being handled valiantly. A lot of power isn't back on, a lot of roads are blocked. Whatever, that's life in a hurricane. I've never experienced life in a hurricane through Facebook. That is new, and I'm sure other people have, but it was really interesting and not depressing.
Is it really a lot like Duckburg? Sorry.
Wow.
But yeah, but before we jump into last week's question of the week, this week's question of the week, your 9/11 stories. Like, where were you, or like what? Like, was there entertainment that you took in, like with me in Resident Evil, where it's like something that took your mind off 9/11? It doesn't have to be a direct story if that's too hard, but like
I told that
something
with,
that you used to cope
with a laptop and a CD. I would, when I lived with my sister or maybe a girlfriend, I would love to listen to, because I grew up with it, those Ray Bradbury X-1 sci-fi radio productions, because you have no lights.
Yeah.
And like it creates the perfect atmosphere for like scary old-timey radio. I've been through more hurricanes than I can count. That's why I'm saying this one is weird. This is the first hurricane that hit my friends and family that I haven't been there for my entire life. So I've been through. It wouldn't faze me if I was in Florida. I don't care. I've been through so many, but just that not being able to know. Ray Bradbury. X-1 Ray Bradbury Theater stories in the dark at candlelight, playing on a laptop. Italian kissing face.
So let's move on to last week's bonus time question of the week, which was, what is your worst ever movie-going experience? Z. Paul Fox led things off saying, my worst movie-going experience was simply watching Allegiant. I love the Divergent series books and enjoyed the first two movies. The movie Allegiant may be the worst movie I've ever seen.
I heard that.
So bad it surpassed funny, bad, straight to depressing. I considered walking out a dozen times, but I felt invested, and I was morbidly curious to see if it would stay bad all the way to the end. Spoiler, it does. Best/worst of all, they split the third book into two movies and didn't title it Part 1. There was a huge character death in the final book that they may cut out because of fan crying. I thought the death was very impactful and great for the story.
Are you they took out because it was too impactful?
Yeah.
Jesus, you can soften a death scene in a film. Yeah. So the last thing I read about that was that they were gonna. The last movie performed so poorly, Lionsgate was going to bust it down to television and do like the last thing as a multi-part television episode because they couldn't get people going to a third film. Yeah. Who else was next? Winston Gambro says, despite loving the movie, my worst movie-going experience was The Force Awakens. It was ruined by a woman behind me constantly and loudly asking her boyfriend inane questions. When Ren stabbed Han, that's a mega spoiler. Yeah. She repeatedly asked, why did he do that? It totally took me out of an otherwise awesome movie. Woo-hoo.
David Parkinson said, I know this is dating me, but back when Shark Tale came out, my friend's mom brought us to go see it. Not only was the showtime late, I was feeling ill, and so halfway through the movie I had to excuse myself so I could vomit.
During Shark Tale.
My friend's mom brought me to the bathroom, but I only made it as far as the entrance, and to make matters worse, I ended up projectile vomiting into the open door of the ladies' room, which had just been cleaned. The people running it were super cool, though, and gave us free tickets to another movie.
Because you ruined the ladies' bathroom? I gotta give this a shot. Shark Tale. I owned a little promotional poster just because Martin Scorsese was the voice of a fish in that film. Fucking Jack Dowley said, a couple years ago, I went to see How to Train Your Dragon 2 and was having a pleasant time watching it. About halfway through the film, about 2 seats behind me, a dude stands up, turns around, and shouts at the person behind him, "Stop kicking my seat!" The guy claims he wasn't, and shouting dude sat back down and said, "Control your fucking kids." This offended the seated dude, and in response, he kicked the seat in front of him as hard as he could. Shouting guy immediately jumps back a row and starts throwing punches at the seated dude, and they tumble down into the row in front of them. They're calling each other cunts. This is Australia. Oi! And beating the shit out of each other just in front of their families. But everyone's family in a packed... Sorry, let me read that line again. And not just in front of their families, but everyone's family in a packed cinema. They got kicked out, but the whole cinema couldn't calm back down after it. And the rest of the movie having light chatter about the event until the movie ended. Jesus
Ruining
Christ.
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. Tobias! How did the movie end?
Aaron Baba, that was a good one. Aaron Baba says, I saw Funny People with my folks. We shared the experience of Adam Sandler's super awkward and self-servicing sex scenes together.
I think it's still a really good movie,
Leslie
actually.
Man, your vagina's the shit.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
I don't know.
That should have been like a series. There's so many arcs to that fucking movie.
It's like a 2.5 hour comedy.
There's like 6 acts to it.
God, we watched that, didn't we?
Maybe funnier than the movie itself is the promotional campaign leading up to it. Before Aziz Ansari was famous. Remember, he was Randy, the DJ comedian at LaughYourDickOff.com.
What was the movie with Hugh Jackman with the balls on his chin?
Movie 54 or something
That's
like
what
that.
I was thinking
I
of.
can't remember what it's called. Mark Hasler said, I went to see Spectre in a new IMAX laser presentation format in Toronto, and when I got there, the pre-show sizzle reel of ads and commercials was flickering badly, which on a 7-story high screen I'm certain is liable for inducing seizures. I complained to the management, but they never turned it off. Finally, when the showtime hit, the movie didn't come on, forcing them to perform a classic computer reboot. There is nothing better than seeing just a Windows screen to ruin movie-making magic for you. Hit close out of that, hit X, and now start the magic.
Start the MPEG that they sent you.
Mark Hasler continues, all of us packed in this ginormous state-of-the-art theater got to bear witness to the Windows 7 Professional Edition load-up screen, accompanied by a 12-track surround sound rendition of the distinct Windows login chime.
Wow. Man,
this theater
6 stories tall.
The theater started in safe mode, and we finally got to watch Spectre in peace with whatever magic remained of the theater experience lost forever. Thank you, Mark Hasler. I hope you had fun at Space Camp. Wasn't that you?
Pioneer's Spine says, going to see Chamber of Secrets with my brother and his ex-wife. I was 9 at the time. I used to get chronic migraines when I was a kid, and I wasn't feeling well before we left. But I wasn't going to let a headache stand in between me and Harry Potter. Inevitably, that headache morphed into a searing, nauseating pain. Less than a half hour into the film, I say I need to go to the bathroom now. Before anyone has time to get up, I turned to my former sister-in-law and coat her entire lap in vomit. We went home, and everyone took some much-needed showers. I never saw the rest of Chamber of Secrets, and always felt bad about it, right up until the ex-wife became a pathologically lying, cheating, rampant alcoholic, and they got divorced. Now I don't feel so bad anymore.
Whatever. I sympathize with her. Psylocke Rule says, I laughed so hard at the opening of Bruno that I threw up in my popcorn.
I'll throw up.
As the smell was getting bad and I was trying to hide it, I was asked to leave by the staff. Embarrassing. Embarrassing and kind of gross, as I didn't realize I had some puke on the bottom of my trousers that had soaked through. Oof. Saw the rest of the film eventually, but turns out it never reaches the height of the opening.
That MMA ending is pretty great, though.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing.
And Nathaniel Lockhart says, I think the worst was a viewing of Johnny Guitar, a 1954 Western starring Joan Crawford. There was a group of asshole teenagers laughing at what they perceived as bad acting throughout the whole movie. You know, that weird continental accent.
Really?
I almost went up to them to tell them to shut up, but my abnormally patient wife held me back. Why are a bunch of teenagers going to see a 1950s movie?
Oh, was this for class?
I think it was like, we can all finger each other in this movie, so let's go.
Man, I did watch that episode of Seinfeld where, like, really was making out that big a deal for adults? Like,
but it
you
was
had to go to
during
Schindler's List?
Patient. That was
Schindler's List.
Oh, Schindler's List. Damn.
Schindler's List.
That's what I did during Chamber of Secrets.
Oh, wow.
It ends with a chess game, by the way.
Yeah, this was one of our most commented on questions of the week, so I recommend going into the post and looking at some of them. John Wah had a great one about like the multitude of problems that ruined Star Trek Beyond for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, that'll do it for this question of the week. And
we're recording this on Labor Day as dutiful Patreon slaves.
Now the second most popular summer or September holiday behind 9/11. But
it's all nothing till Halloween.
Yeah,
let's do this.
I hope you enjoyed this somewhat glib episode. You know, it'll be back to business as usual next week. Actually, no, next week is 64, so we should probably do something in.
Haven't we had like 700 opportunities to exploit that number?
Yeah, but you got to do it every time.
All right.
Just like 9/11.
All right.
And to take us out
next time we do it is Laser Time episode 9/11.
Yeah.
See you in 20 years.
But to take us out, and it'll be 5 episodes early, as R250 was. But to close us out, it's the thing that sticks with me most from 9/11. It's no, it's from that same Jon Stewart monologue. It's him talking about how he used to be able to see the Twin Towers from his apartment. So this will take us out. We'll see you next week.
The view from my apartment was the World Trade Center. And now it's gone. And they attacked it. This symbol of American ingenuity and strength and labor and imagination and commerce, and it is gone. But you know what the view is now? The Statue of Liberty. The view from the south of Manhattan is now the Statue of Liberty. You can't beat that.